Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Fatherhood. And this is a new Netflix film starring Kevin Hart as a man whose wife passes away right after giving birth to their child, and he must be a single father and make sure that his daughter is raised right. And this is from director Paul Weitz, who previously had done About a Boy, the first American Pie film, and In Good Company. And also Circular Freak, the vampire movie. So, a bit of a mixed bag of backstory there, but at least those early ones, there was heart. And there's something endearing about those films. And this film delivers that as well. I am not the hugest fan of Kevin Hart. I've definitely liked him more in certain things than other things. If I didn't have to hear him cry and scream like a little baby, I would be happy. Luckily, we don't have to hear that. We do hear an actual baby crying a lot and him dealing with it. But in this film, there's a certain level of drama to it. There's definitely humor, and there's probably more humor than you would get in a standard drama. But this is still a dramatic film focusing on this man, and Weitz gives enough heart and earnestness to rise us above just plain run-of-the-mill kind of serviceable film. I'm not going to say this film is great. I'm not going to say that this is one of the best, most just like hit to the heart kinds of dramas that you're going to see. But there is enough here with enough heart and earnestness, and it's just a little endearing film. And Netflix has a nice little film here. And really at the heart of it, you have Kevin Hart, who does dial things back. He does have his moments. He does have his little outbursts, like he comes into like a parent support group, which is actually just a bunch of mothers with their babies, and just being like, I can't get this baby to stop crying. And leads to him figuring out about white noise machines, and he starts running vacuums and finds an app through the suggestion of somebody else, and him trying to deal with things. But this film starts off with the eulogy that he's giving for his wife, and his first thing out of his mouth is, "This sucks." And it kind of sets the tone for this film, because it's like, obviously we're starting with the funeral, it's dramatic, it's sad, but throwing a little bit of a joke there. And this definitely feels more drama than comedy, but it is close to 50-50. And Kevin Hart does give an earnest performance, and I did care about him. I wanted him to win. I felt bad for him. And boy, when you see what happens with his wife, the performance that he gives is believable. It's emotional. I felt it. And it was a hard scene to watch. And this film starts off in a non-linear storytelling for like all of like 20 some minutes, and then goes to like a normal narrative, which that was an interesting choice. I'm like, why do you start, like, usually it's like you either go all in on the non-linear or just you give a linear story. I don't know if that really needed to happen, but it did set up some interesting reveals with like his friend calling him out on his eulogy, and it cuts to the eulogy, and it's really sad as he's making eye contact with all the people meaningful to him, and he sees his own mother holding his child who now doesn't have a mother. And you have those emotional moments, and you know, you have his friends in this film played by Lil Rel Howery and Billy Kerrigan from Barry and Bill and Ted Face the Music, and they're fun. Lil Rel has some moments flirting with Kevin Hart's mom and mother-in-law, calling them gilfs. I'm just like, oh, we're going that far. And there's some moments they're like watching an inappropriate cartoon later in the film, because you have baby daughter, and then daughter becomes a little bit older, and dealing with moments like that, and they're watching something and just like, oh, we're not watching that anymore. And Lil Rel definitely has his moments, and there's one particular moment that's shown later in the film where they get to see the daughter walk for the first time, and it was endearing and it was sweet. And Billy Kerrigan's just like awkward the whole time, and he's doing his thing. You have Paul Reiser, who's Kevin Hart's boss in the film, that has some fun moments as well. And bit of an antagonist because he's the boss putting this force upon him, like, you have your job, you need to figure out something to do with your kid. But probably the most antagonistic aspect of the film is his mother-in-law, played by Alfre Woodard, who's great. She's absolutely great in this film, and she's really, like, she's biting, she can be cruel, but there's heart and love and caring behind there, and challenging Kevin Hart's character, because, like, the choices that he's making can be interpreted as self-serving and self-interested, and are they the best thing for his daughter? And it really pushes him. Her presence pushes him to be a better father. And on some level, it might need to be there. And later in the film, he starts moving into that stage where he's, like, trying to move on, maybe, and has this connection with this other woman played by DeWanda Wise, and they're great together. I loved every moment. And of course, you have the ups and downs in the story. Something happens, maybe they don't work out. It's definitely cliched and tropey in the way that you see this narrative go along and where it winds up going. You're not going to be surprised with what happens in this film. And if you know the premise of the film, you're not shocked by what happens early on. It's still a hard and emotional scene to watch, and there's definitely hard emotional scenes to watch throughout the film where we hit those conflicts that you expect to see, but at least they're done in an earnest way where you still feel it even if you expect them to be coming. And I feel like that's the kind of thing that makes this film stand out. It's earnest, it's emotional, it hit me. It has strong performances, and where it might be something where it's like, yeah, I've seen this before, but it's done in a really kind and respectful and meaningful way to give fatherhood a feel that it's like, yeah, I've seen something like this before, but I'm glad that I watched this because it took me on a bit of an emotional ride. So when it really comes down to it, Fatherhood is a sweet, endearing film that tells a good story, and I think it's worth your watch. It's right there on Netflix. But those are my thoughts on Fatherhood. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.